Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle, normally we just talked like in the last minute about like all the behind the scenes and how like, you know, we try to put everything together and like what I do for like the open. No, I don't have any open today because I am completely almost speechless. Well, not really quite, because I always have something to say. Sure. Dude, it's here.
I know. We have been keeping this secret from you for so long. I cannot believe it's actually out there and you're about to experience this. Because here we are at minute 120 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Jon Favreau. And we're doing things a little differently today. It's real. It's not fake. It's not some weird AI bot edited thing. No, we, two schlubs with beards, got to talk to the one and only Agent Coulson himself, Mr. Clark Gregg. It happened. I have a screenshot that proves that it happened just because I sometimes don't believe it myself. We'll get into a lot of this stuff, but I know that you don't want to hear us nattering on.
Nope.
You want to hear from the man himself. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, part one of our interview with Mr. Clark Gregg. I believe you're currently shooting Being The Ricardos, is that right?
That's a true fact.
So you work obviously with Aaron Sorkin. You did stuff on Broadway. You've done Sports Night. You did West Wing. But now he's directing you. How has it been having him as a director rather than just trying to get his words right?
It's funny. I always, even though the amazing directors on all of those things, Don Scarnito on Broadway, and then the various great West Wing directors and Sports Night directors, I think Tommy Schlamme was involved with both. You always feel Aaron's presence in the room. Like, both in the words and in, they're words that are entitled to a level of loyalty. Not all the words you come upon are. And,
right.
But it was really, so far, the main stuff that I have is still to be shot. But we did have one or two long rehearsals and a table read. And it was really thrilling. He's a man of the theater. And he's been doing this a long time. I mean, I remember the review for A Few Good Men said, young playwright, 29-year-old playwright, I think, Aaron Sorkin. He was quite the wunderkind. And, he still kind of is.
We've been guests on a movie podcast today. We've been talking about Being The Ricardos because every time another piece of news comes out about another announcement of who is casting, it just gets more and more exciting. Like the fact that J.K. Simmons is going to be Fred just blew our minds.
It's a great role, and he's going to be great. He's already great.
Can you say who you play in it, or is that still secret? It's fine if it's secret.
No, I can say it. I'm Ethel.
Oh, of course.
I am, I believe, a fictitious amalgam of CBS creative execs.
Okay. Now
by the name of Howard Wenke is his name, and he's a kind of a key player in the Desilu production of I Love Lucy Every Week.
Yeah, well, that's a very Sorkin-esque name. So let's talk Marvel. So let's go all the way back to the beginning of the MCU. How did the unnamed agent, who we would come to know as Phil, first come into your life?
I got a call from my agent at UTA, and he said, "Okay, did you know that they're about to start shooting Iron Man?" And I was like, "Yes, I am very aware of this. They have an amazing cast." And he said, "Well, there's a little part." There's not much there. I think a couple of lines. But, I know you like this stuff. And I was like, yeah. And I saw the cast and I thought, oh, my God, this is going to be the first person cut out of the movie. It's the guy with no name. And luckily, I said, you know what? I can't pass this up. And it became more and more of a thing, both in that movie and going forward. And certainly I have been Philip J. Coulson for, I think, 11 years. Yeah. 12.
Yeah, same, because now we're talking about Iron Man 2 a lot. It just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. So then Iron Man was then 2 years before that. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm curious if we can extend that time. So I have a question in terms of characters, and you got to put something to rest. Are Agent Mike Casper and Agent Phil Coulson the same person?
No.
Oh, wait, definitively?
Definitively.
Oh,
Look at that! You got an exclusive.
That's amazing. Well, because and you know why I'm asking, because
this is what really throws people. I think it would be the other way around. Agent Mike Casper, LMD.
Oh, see,
Didn't see that coming.
no,
So
I did not.
West Wing is part of the Marvel universe.
Well, that's okay. Sam Seaborn is clearly a Skrull. He's clearly a Skrull. We knew this. Okay.
Rob Lowe has been playing a Skrull. That's why he never ages for 20 years.
Exactly. All right. Okay, but
he just is this Skrull. I'm not going to argue with anybody. Anything I do, I play a Muppet, and someone was like, "That's Coulson in Deep Cover." So I just go with it.
nice.
So, in between Iron Man 1 and 2, you got a chance, your first directorial debut, your film directorial debut, Choke, came out. So, what was it about Chuck Palahniuk's novel that caught your interest and you kept on for so many years before you actually were allowed to really shoot it?
I did what?
Choke.
I did what for many years?
That's what my research says, 5 or 6 years that you tried to get it made?
Yeah, it did take a bit. I thought Fight Club was visionary and really important form of satire that I hadn't seen much of. That was as kind of punk rock as it was smart, as it was fearless. And I felt in a very different way, the same way about Choke. And even though it was about a sex-addicted colonial theme park worker who deliberately chokes in restaurants so that he can form a parasitic relationship with the people who save him, I don't know. I felt like it felt very personal to me. I had a personal connection to it in ways that I probably don't want to think about too much. And I just thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant piece of work, and Chuck turned out to be a really incredible collaborator. And I was lucky to get a great friend and a brilliant actor like Sam Rockwell to play the lead, and a tremendous cast. And we had a hell of a great time with all that.
Yeah, so we've been talking about Sam Rockwell a lot because of his time in Iron Man 2. Yeah, he's one of our favorite parts of the movie. So that's been super fun. Yeah, you shot that before Iron Man 2?
Oh, before Iron Man 2.
Yeah, it came out in between.
Before Iron Man, I think between the two. Because during Iron Man, I was desperately trying to put the financing together, and it would come together and fall apart and come together and fall apart. And Jon Favreau had certainly come that route with Swingers, and he was hilariously encouraging and wise about the process and how to survive it. There was that book, The Secret, that was out, and I think they were teasing me, but I took it very seriously. He and his collaborator Peter Billingsley were like, "Trust the secret. You've got to visualize the budget you want for this movie and the cast you want." And I think they were teasing me, but I just did all of it, and it totally worked. So, The Secret.
Wow. So, did your experiences, like as a director, change how you approached acting when you came to the set? Like, did you have a new perspective when you came back to the set, seeing what the big job was like?
Absolutely. I mean, there's something about directing other actors, the trust exercise of that, editing performances, seeing all the takes, watching the different processes of someone like Angelica Houston or Sam or Kelly MacDonald, the magnificent Kelly MacDonald, where you really get to see the way different people put together an amazing performance. And it's kind of a dream job for an actor to direct, because you learn so much about acting that you wouldn't necessarily get to see otherwise.
You'd done a bunch of stage directing. What was the biggest difference between directing for the stage and directing for the camera? Is it just the amount of people are asking you your opinion on things?
Partly, but no. I mean, there is a stage picture, and there's stuff that's going on, and there is a way where you're steering focus on a stage, but finding a way to tell the story visually, not just in the design and the costumes and the locations you choose, but even though I had written What Lies Beneath and I'd been around for a lot of that, I had this brilliant cinematographer, Tim Orr, and he had to really do a lot of the work for me, understanding how to communicate what I wanted visually, because there was things I was really clear about, and there was many that I wasn't. And then it would have been one thing if we had the time on a very fast schedule, tight budget like that, to really talk about the options, but really. A lot, after I finished, I joked with him that I was just going to lie on the refrigerator and lie on the couch and figure out how I could get to the refrigerator in less shots, because we would constantly have to cut half of what we had planned. So that really the cinematic language and fitting that to the very tricky tone of Choke was the big learning curve for me.
So, did that sort of scratch the itch for you? Like, or do you have designs to do more directing?
I made another feature called Trust Me. Probably, I don't know, 8 years later or something. And yet I wrote a part there that my partner and my friend, the brilliant casting director and producer, Mary Vernew, said, you're never going to have a part that's better for you than this. And kind of talked me into playing that part. So that became a whole different level of endurance.
Yeah.
But no, it's something. I directed 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, and that was an amazing experience. There's something. It's a different form of storytelling than the acting, but having an actor's language or a writer's language helps. And certainly one of the reasons that I was interested in directing a couple episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was because as the world moves more into long form, I've been writing things with the hopes of perhaps making a long form thing.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so you've got some stuff in the hopper that you're hoping to...
Yes, I don't. I should need to figure out where the hopper is so I can get it out. Yeah, I do have a couple things I've been working on. All
right, that's exciting. Okay. So on Iron Man 2, you originally showed up at the congressional hearing, but your scene got cut. Do you have any memories of shooting with Gwyneth and being in that apparently very crowded set for a long time?
I knew Gwyneth a little bit socially years earlier, so it was really lovely to see her. And it was a really fun little, well-written scene that was funny. And I don't blame them for cutting it. I don't think it moved much along, other than kind of doing a plug for this famous chili in Washington and and keeping Agent Coulson in the picture. But I just remember watching Gary Shandling,
the
beloved and magnificent Gary Shandling, and Sam and Downey all kind of riffing together in there. It was really a thrill.
So is it true that you were actually on the set of Iron Man 2 filming when you found out that Coulson was going to be coming back in other movies?
Well, I mean, I knew that was my second, and I knew they had plans, but I didn't, I still was just surprised that they'd asked me to do another one as this guy. If you start out with no name, you tend to think you're probably a one and done. Yes, during one of the shots, I know they changed the line. They said, "Oh, now tell him you have to go. Tell Mr. Stark you have to go. We have to be in New Mexico." Okay. There was a lot of shifting of little tweaks of the dialogue in there, and I did it a couple of times before I realized, I feel like Coulson knows where he's going. I should know where he's going, to imbue that with some credibility. And I remember Lou D'Esposito going, "What's in New Mexico?" And they because Tony Stark Robert was saying Land of Enchantment, and I was saying, "You have no idea," just to be snarky. Just to be snarky. And then I was like, "No, that's good. You should keep saying that. I like that." And I was like, "Well, what is it? What am I? I know I'm, other than coming up with a snarky riff, why? What am I doing there?" And they said, "Oh, Thor is in New Mexico. The hammer. You're going to did no one tell you this? You're going to find the hammer." And that was one of the many moments where I was like,
well, nothing like on a need-to-know basis. That really helps your character. We've been talking about this movie. We're literally breaking it apart minute by minute. And I think one of the things that we're in the post-production in some of the later episodes, it's amazing to realize how important you are in the pivotal role that character plays in Iron Man 2. I have made the case that Pepper Potts is not a great friend of Tony Stark. She lets him get drunk at the party. Everything goes bad. You are the character, I would even say more than Nick Fury, that actually changes Tony, like gives him the motivation to search for answers and to get him on the path of where he needs to be. It's Phil Coulson's character.
Okay, I like where you're going.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Why? What do you mean? Tell me more.
No, that's where we're going. Now, I have a really odd question here too. Okay, so we know that when Clark Gregg gets into a lip sync battle, things get toxic. Let's say I'm going to pitch this. I want to pitch this to Disney Plus. They're doing a what if show. What if in the Marvel Cinematic Universe there's a lip sync battle? Agent Phil Coulson is in it. Who does he battle, and what song does he perform?
Wow, that's a whole other episode of this show.
I know, right?
But how does he influence Tony Stark?
Because of the way I think that he interfaces him. One of the things that we picked up on in this movie in Iron Man 2 is that Tony is really put off kilter when characters don't give him a lot to work with, right? Yeah. So like Natasha Romanoff, right? Like Black Widow, he doesn't know how to read her. He doesn't know how to read Phil Coulson's character. And because of that, it really engages him and it draws him into the dialogue. And so when you have those moments, especially the moment after the party and the house, the mansion has been blown up, that whole thing of, look, here's your information. I'm not your coffee boy.
Yeah.
You got to get to work.
I'll tase you.
It's a real pivotal moment for the character, right?
I remember Justin Theroux pitching that and kind of coming up with that line and just thinking like, okay. And that had been a thing that had been talked about a little bit, which was, and I don't know if this was always their plan or that this is what they came up with, but that this kind of pesky bureaucrat who seems to want to meet with Tony Stark in Iron Man 1, that was a hiding in plain sight kind of cover.
Yes.
Did you get a hint of at the end of that movie where he goes, "It's not my first rodeo. I've seen aliens that would make you die from a heart attack," which it turns out I had.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel. And so I thought that was a brilliant thing by Justin of adding the bit where you go, okay, if you're going to act up, I'm going to have to peel off one more, not a scroll head,
right?
One more layer of the mask of, you think you know who I am? You don't know. We're dealing with things. And I think that kind of pays off when he goes, I've got to leave. I got to go deal with something in New Mexico.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the credits of that movie where I found it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have that on my list of questions that we're going to talk about. But yeah, that scene is one of our favorites too, just because Robert's just being Tony and charming and quippy, and Coulson's giving him nothing, and it's fantastic.
It was a great line he came up with about that.
Hey, listen, just you know what. Once you get your action figure, I mean, you've made it. You're a pivotal player. By the way, the answer to those questions are
smaller action figure. Yeah. That's actually the medium-sized one.
I know it's the 6-inch. It's the Legends. I mean, Nick's is a little bit. I mean, Sam's is anyway. Okay, but I thought you were going to go with the answer is that lip sync battle in the MCU. You take on Nick Fury, and I think the song is maybe like "Take on Me." Something a little bit. Yeah, right, exactly. A little. Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, I'd like to think that Coulson would be a little less
leggy,
excited to jump into the androgynous airline steward.
I didn't want to. I wasn't gonna. I'll tell you. You look. Those are nice legs. No joke. Well done.
You don't think Coulson would do Star Spangled Man?
Yeah. Who knows? There was a whole scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where he's having this kind of tense standoff with Edward James Olmos, who's running an alternate version of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's this showdown of ostensible heads of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they're talking about their potential record collection, and I kept throwing out, like, I really prefer, and I would go, like, for big punk bands, and the showrunners would come over, no, that's not Phil Coulson. I'm like, well, it's not Bob Seger, okay? No.
All right, we're back in the studio. Sorry, I know I was having a good time listening to him too, but you got to keep the people coming back for more. So that was only part one. It doesn't interrupt anything. We have a whole nother thing where we get into a lot more specific stuff, and Clark warms up and starts really messing with us. So
there was messing. No, there was messing here. There was a lot of messing with us. Yes.
Yeah, but it amps up. Believe me, in part two, you're not going to want to miss it. So in the meantime, while you're waiting, you could maybe go on to the social media things and say, hey, can you believe it that these guys from this little show I watched got to talk to this guy and it was amazing. Do what you can. We had a great time talking to him. We loved for more people to listen to it. So leave a review or post on your social stuff. Tag us in the thing and let people know that we got a chance to talk to the man himself. So make sure you're back here for minute 121 when we have our second part of the Clark Gregg interview. We get into some serious stuff and maybe some possible notes about the future of Agent Coulson. What does that mean? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. Enough said.
Bye.